Hi, third graders. Mrs. Smith here to talk to you today about your lesson on idioms. In order to be successful on this lesson, you're going to need three things. The first thing you're going to need is your benchmark book called Spending Time and Money. The next thing you're going to need is your benchmark packet of worksheets. This particular worksheet that we're going to go over today is on page 10, and you'll see across the top, idiom, literal meaning, non-literal meaning, and then a couple of words here and phrases down the side. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard someone say something like, I could eat a horse, or I slept like a log? Did you understand what they meant when they said those things? If you did, you probably have some background knowledge on something called idioms or figurative language. If not, that's okay. We're going to go over it and review it right now. So let me bring you to this page and present my screen to you. All right. So, like I said, there are two types of words and phrases. The first is called literal, and the second is called non-literal or figurative language. Now you might be saying, Mrs. Smith, what is figurative language? Well, figurative language is when you use a word or a phrase that does not have its normal everyday literal meaning. Something like, I slept like a log, or I could eat a horse, are examples of figurative language. Writers use figurative language to make their work more interesting or more dramatic than literal language, which simply states just the facts. I could say something like, I'm very hungry, and that would be me simply stating the facts. Or I could use an example using figurative language like, I could eat a horse, and then you really know how hungry I am. So here are some other examples of figurative language. When we talk about figurative language, we could talk about things like similes. We could talk about things like metaphors or onomatopoeia. Another one that we're going to talk specifically about today is idioms. So again, here's another page that describes to you the difference between literal and non-literal language. Literal is when you say exactly what you mean. I could tell you, hey, third grader, I'm very hungry, and you would know exactly what I mean. Or I could be even more dramatic and say something like, I could eat a horse. And a horse is a super big animal, right? So if I could eat a horse, you know I'm starving. I'm so hungry. And I didn't have to tell you I was hungry. I told you I could eat a horse, and you knew that sounded like a big meal. So you knew that I was hungry. So non-literal language uses different words and phrases to say what you mean. So both of these phrases mean that I'm hungry, but they make different pictures in your head when you hear them, right? So today we're specifically talking about idioms. You might be saying, Mrs. Smith, what is an idiom? An idiom is a phrase that has a different figurative meaning than the literal meaning of each word or phrase. Meaning that if I were to say an idiom, you can't take it for exactly what I say. You can't take me literally. I'm saying something that's meant to be dramatic, that's meant to paint a picture in your head of what I'm saying using different words. So you kind of have to interpret idioms and figure out what they mean. Thankfully, idioms are a big part of our language. So you've probably heard quite a bit of them before. So we're going to go over some examples. You might have heard this one before. Cool as a cucumber. Now, do I mean that you're a cucumber covered in ice? Probably not. When I say you're as cool as a cucumber, what I'm really saying is you're very calm. You don't have a lot of worry in front of you, right? You are a very calm person if I say you are as cool as a cucumber. Another popular one that we often say is it cost me an arm and a leg. Now, do I mean that whatever you went to go buy, made the cashier at the store made you give them your arm and your leg? No, I definitely didn't mean that. That would be crazy. I meant that it cost a lot of money. Another one that you might be familiar with is it's raining cats and dogs. Now, do I mean that you went outside and there are cats and dogs falling from the sky? No, that would be crazy too. What "it's raining cats and dogs" really means is that it's raining really hard outside. Finally, it's a piece of cake. Do I mean that what's in front of you is a piece of cake? Literally? No. This is another example of non literal language. I don't mean this literally, I mean it in a non literal sense. This is an idiom that means it's easy. So that's the end of my little slideshow for you. So I hope that this review of some idioms helped you so that you can be successful in our worksheet today. So going back to that, here it is. So I hope by now you've familiarized yourself with this story called Lazy Harry. Today we're focusing on just paragraphs 5 through 10 to complete the idioms here. You can see that I've already started to highlight a couple of them in the passage so that I can find them easily. You might want to go ahead and highlight the ones that you can see now, but don't worry, there's more. Okay, so again, we're going to go through each of these idioms and we're going to write down what the literal meaning is, right? If I were to take this phrase for exactly what it says, what does it mean literally? And then we're going to write down the non-literal meaning, or what I really mean when I say this in the context of the story. How am I using this idiom to be more dramatic and to tell you what I mean in different words? Okay, so the first one is clear as day. You can see that I have it highlighted here. This paragraph here is about Harry, and he's thinking really hard about the problem that he's having in this story, right? About what he's going to do, about how he doesn't want to watch this goat anymore. So I'm going to read this sentence, and we're going to see how clear as day is used in context, how it's used in this passage. So it says, "For a long time, all that thinking led to nothing. Suddenly, a good idea, clear as day, came upon him." So I'm going to stop there because my next idiom is in the next sentence. But in that sentence that I just read to you, suddenly a good idea, clear as day, came upon him. All of a sudden, Harry has this idea in his brain, right? He's got this great idea that maybe is going to solve his problems. Why did they say clear as day? What does that mean? Well, literally clear as day. Oops, there we go. Literally clear as day, if I told you those phrases, you might think I'm talking about a bright and sunny day where the sky is clear, right? But is that what Harry's talking about in this passage? Suddenly a good idea, and then he starts talking about the bright and the sunny sky? Probably not. When we use the idiom clear as day, what I mean is, let's see how I can shuffle these around. There we go. Is that it describes an idea that's obvious. If I say something is as clear as day, right? Think about a clear sunny sky. You can see things super clearly, right? It's so when I use that idiom in this passage, what I really mean is it's an obvious idea. Suddenly this great obvious idea came upon Harry that's going to solve his problems. Okay? Maybe it would help if I zoom in so you can see. Maybe not. Okay, so then you can see over here that I've highlighted the next one, which is a fog has lifted. Now, if I tell you a fog has lifted, in your head, you probably imagine fog, right? That kind of misty, cloudy type of weather that we have that sits really low. You might drive through it sometimes and it feels like you're driving through a cloud, right? So a fog has lifted, meaning that it's going up, right? So literally, if I say a fog has lifted, I'm talking about a fog that has once covered an area that's gone away, right? The fog has literally lifted and gone away. But in the context of this story, it says, "It was as if a fog had lifted right before his eyes. He knew how to solve the problem," right? So all of a sudden, Harry has this great idea. It's as clear as day to him, and it's as if a fog has lifted, right? Have you ever heard that your brain is feeling a little bit foggy, right? Where things aren't as clear to you, but now a fog has lifted. So what does that mean in this passage? It means an idea that you were unsure of became clear to you. Whoops, let me slide this over. Became clear to you. It's a good choice. You've realized that now. Okay, so that's what a fog has lifted means as an idiom. The next idiom we're going to talk about is set her mind. You might have heard someone say this to you before, right? You set your mind to something. Now, let's find it in the passage. Here it is. So, let's read this paragraph together. It says, "But wouldn't you know it, Trina was lazy too. She did not like to watch the goats any more than Harry did. Discontented, she set her mind to thinking of a way to avoid work." Now, literally, if I set my mind, that kind of puts a picture in my head that I'm picking up my brain and putting it somewhere else. Is that what Trina's doing? Did she pick up her brain and put it somewhere else? No, she didn't. When we say set your mind to something, what we're really saying is you become determined to do something. If you set your mind to something, you've decided this is what I'm going to do to solve my problem or to figure something out, right? So it doesn't mean pick up your brain and put it on the table. It doesn't mean pick up your brain and put it on your dresser. It means that you've become determined to do something. Okay? Now, the next one is one that you might have heard of before, too. Like I said before, oftentimes we use idioms in our day to day language, and we might not even be realizing that we're doing it. So, you might have heard someone say, "You're barely lifting a finger," right? And do I mean that I have my finger and I'm barely lifting it up? Probably not, right? But literally, that's what it sounds like. You're not raising a finger. But let's look at it in the context of my passage. So I'm going to flip my page. And here it is at the end of paragraph 9. Let's give this a second to not be blurry. Maybe. Come on. Okay, I'm going to keep reading and we'll see if it clears up. So at the end of paragraph 9, it says, "Bees fly out and find their own way home. We can collect honey while barely lifting a finger." So because you've already read this paragraph and you've already read this passage, you know that this is when Trina and Harry are talking about why they should work so hard when there's no need to. What could they do instead? And so they start talking about how they're going to earn money by keeping bees because bees do their own work for them. So they can collect the honey while barely lifting a finger. Now, do they mean that they're going to go outside and lift their fingers up? No. What they mean is they can collect the honey. Come on, don't be blurry anymore. The third graders need to see. While not doing any work, right? Trina and Harry are both lazy. We know this about them. And so when they start talking about this great foolproof plan that they have to get money by raising bees, because bees do all the work themselves, they can get it done and earn some money by barely lifting a finger or not doing any work. Okay? The last one is another one of those ones that you might hear and say this one a lot and not realize that it's an idiom. The one I'm talking about is carry out. In paragraph 10, it says, "You have spoken like a sensible woman," replied Harry. "We will carry out your proposal without delay. Besides, honey tastes better and nourishes one better than goat's milk. It can be kept longer, too." So he says, "We will carry out your proposal. We will carry out your plan." Now, does he mean that they're going to pick up her plan and walk away with it? No, but when we say something, we're going to carry something out. Usually that's what we mean, right? But as an idiom in the context of this passage, it does not mean we're going to pick it up and take it outside. Instead, it means we're going to do something we've planned to do. If I'm going to carry out an idea or carry out a plan, I'm not going to pick it up and walk away with it. I'm going to complete the task. I'm going to do what I have planned to do. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so that if you needed to go back and look at any one of these particular idioms, you could see them all on one page so that you can pause this screen and get some stuff written down. So go ahead and pause this screen if you missed one. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and look at the question at the bottom of my page. It says, in paragraph 9, Trina says, we can collect honey while barely lifting a finger. Which sentence means the same thing? So remember, we talked about barely lifting a finger as an idiom up here, right? It means not doing any work. So which of these down here means the same as not doing any work or barely lifting a finger? Is it A, we don't have to collect the honey ourselves? B, it will be difficult to collect honey? C, it will be easy to collect honey? Or D, we don't have to use our fingers while collecting honey. We use a tool so we don't get stung. Which one of these means barely lifting a finger or not doing any work? Go ahead and pause this video and select your choice. Then press play when you're ready to see my answer. Okay, if you selected choice A, you are correct. If they don't have to collect the honey themselves, they are not doing any work. So that's the end of your idiom lesson. I hope that this helped you. If you need to, I will post this slideshow in our Google Classroom if you're in my class, and I will also share it with Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Friedberg so that they can send it out to you and you can review this at any time. Please let me know or let your own classroom teacher know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.